with Ivy Rollins Cross from the Louisville Change Lab, and we are in the beautiful West End Louisville neighborhood right now, and we're going to be going on a bit of a walking tour. Really, it's the time for me to understand what the Louisville Change Lab is doing, and also I really wanted to talk to some local entrepreneurs. So Ivy Rollins Cross is going to take me to Sherry's Market, and we're going to talk to a couple of entrepreneurs there and see what wealth means to them. So, Ivory, tell me about the Louisville Change Lab.
Absolutely. We are super excited in the Louisville Change Lab to be a part of the Black Wealth Building Movement. This is an honor and a great opportunity. I couldn't wait when you gave me the opportunity to share with you a little bit about a neighborhood, to share with you some history, and to share with you some promise that is in the Parkland community. We are going down Virginia Avenue, most noteworthy in the late 50s, mid to late 50s, for thriving entrepreneurship and business in and around the Black community. Super, super, super rich in its history. And there are several original residents that live up and down Virginia Avenue, but the landscape has really, really changed, mostly because of urban renewal. Urban renewal and what the city of Louisville did regarding eminent domain when the Interstate 264 came through. They really bought up lots of businesses, lots of land, and lots of housing. So I'm glad to talk about Parkland, not just where it has been, but also where it's going. Parkland community is met with some thriving, willing, and excited entrepreneurs. And we're, like you said, we're going to share with you one of them. The part I think that the Louisville Change Lab plays in all of this is that we get the opportunity to support entrepreneurs, to support those that just have an idea. They're at the idea stages, and to support persons or entities, corporate and nonprofit, who want to support Black wealth building, either through innovation, through the upbuilding of entrepreneurs, through the fostering of an entrepreneurial mindset, which doesn't necessarily yield into someone becoming an entrepreneur. You may have an idea and you sell that idea. It's a commodity. And someone who is an entrepreneur takes that idea and runs with it. The Louisville Change Lab is a convener or a connector of sorts that will bring together all of those resources while leveraging the resources of the University of Louisville to do that. And so we're really, really excited about that opportunity.
Wow. So it's like a connector not only of people, but resources, communities. Now I know that what is very different about the Louisville Change Lab is that you all are going to set up pop-ups and pull-ups right in neighborhoods within the West End. You're not going to take a mass, we're all one and the same in the West End, but you're actually going to go neighborhood by neighborhood, business by business. So you want to talk a little bit more about the pop-ups and the pull-ups, and how does that factor into supporting what the community desires?
Absolutely. So pop-ups work just like any other pop-up. We're going to take what we have, the resources that we have available to us in the Louisville Change Lab, and we're going to go to businesses and to places and spaces in West Louisville, communities that could benefit from those resources, whether it be resume building, whether it be how to write a business plan, whether it be that they are interested in getting some formal education surrounding business and entrepreneurship. We're going to take those resources to these neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that I'm from, the neighborhood that my grandmother and my mother and my father come from, and we're going to provide those services as a pop-up. Pull-ups are a little different. I'm really super excited about pull-ups because pull-ups will be when existing Black and Brown-owned businesses need support. We're going to, in the Louisville Change Lab, we're going to pull up.
Oh, that's
If
nice.
they are going to have a back to school bash, for example,
Yeah.
and they say, gosh, we've got 500 backpacks,
Yeah.
the Louisville Change Lab's going to pull up. We're going to
Wow.
we're going to match those 500
Wow.
backpacks. And maybe we'll provide hot dogs,
Yeah.
and they provide the buns.
Wow.
And we're going to make whatever it is that our businesses in
Yeah.
our communities want to do
Yeah.
even better. Not because we're so great,
Yeah.
but because we happen to have access or greater access to resource.
Mm.
And we're going to leverage that
To do
that access. Absolutely.
I know you guys have already done. I mean, you're just getting started, but in addition to supporting the Black Wealth Week, Wealth Building Movement, you've already done some pull-up, sort of say. I know the Gel Project, which we had Malcolm from the Gel Project, Malcolm Muhammad, as one of our speakers earlier in the week. We know that you all kind of did a sort of a pull-up on them where they're teaching entrepreneurship to youth. And you guys came through for providing lunch, providing resources so that they could teach the youth here in the West End in a community center and be able to do that. And I actually was the speaker for that program. I didn't quite actually know about you all, even when that was my first experience learning about you all, but that really impressed me that you were supporting this programming. And like you said, just whatever resources you had, not necessarily inserting yourself into the mix, but saying, hey, here's what the community's asking for. We're going to provide that. And that's a big part of Louisville Change Lab, right? It's not necessarily inserting yourself and your will in the community. It's getting what the community wants, right?
Absolutely. It is not our responsibility to come in and to change the landscape of the community. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to say and submit to anyone that asks that it is not our role to do that. We would be wrong to do that. It is our responsibility. If we say that we want to contribute to Black wealth building, if we say we want to contribute to the upbuilding of any given community, it's our responsibility to go into that community, to listen, and to support where that support is necessary.
Wow.
We're not supposed to intervene. We're not a parent.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to tutor
Yeah.
or guide. We are supposed to support. And so it's my pleasure to be able to guide that.
Wow. So I know that a big part of Louisville Change Lab is this concept that we don't need academic researchers to come into the community and treat the community as study subject. We've seen enough of that. But we actually need the researchers that are in the community that have generations of research, having been in the community, this passed down knowledge, this experiential knowledge, to actually come to the academics and say, listen, we know what we need, we know the solutions, we got it figured out. Just give us the resources, help us help you, not the other way around. So tell us more about how Louisville Change Lab is doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. Louisville Change Lab is innovative in a number of ways. And one of the greatest ways that we were able to innovate is its model. There are 5 core areas for the Louisville Change Lab model, one of which is public health. That's our North Star when we think about health equity, right? One is law. One is business entrepreneurship. One is education, with a primary focus on K through 12 and undergraduate and graduate as a secondary focus. And then one is research. What you're talking about is how all community engagement research should be done. And that is, one should always approach community residents as expert knowledge holders of their community. There's no way that I could go into another community, tell them better, with a greater level of discernment and understanding what it is they go through, where it is they've been. As a matter of fact, preparing for this walk, just to make sure that I was accurate in my determination of where we are and where this particular area and neighborhood fits, I asked my mom. I didn't have to look it up. I didn't have to research in that way. I asked my mother, and my mother said that she remembers when urban renewal happened and Interstate 264 came through. She remembers when there were several farms at the end of Virginia Avenue on the south side of Virginia. She remembers that. And we can get back to that same rich perspective now. Right? We can take what we've learned, we can take the things that have happened in between, and we can take opportunities and initiatives like are happening through the Louisville Change Lab to ensure that we truly can take advantage of our resource and access to the benefit of residents, to the benefit of our communities, particularly those communities that have been marginalized.
You know, so you keep bringing this up, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We'll go back to Louisville Change Lab, but I want to talk about Ivory Rollins Cross. And you said that your family actually grew up, maybe not in this neighborhood, but a neighborhood near it.
Absolutely.
And so you yourself have this generational knowledge about the area, and now you're coming back and building, reinvigorating, right, wealth that was taken and lost, and you're trying to infuse that back into the community.
Absolutely.
How does that feel? Because I mean, I know you're University of Louisville, but from a more personal perspective, how does it feel coming back to a community with resources, and to support a community that you grew up in and you have a personal connection to?
It's a privilege. It's a privilege and it's an honor. I thank God every day. This is hard work. It's not just work. It's not just a profession. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, because each of us is tasked with doing this kind of thing in our space, wherever our area of giftedness is, wherever our area of expert knowledge is. I have a background in workforce development. I have a background in education. I love the idea of the academy. Colleges and universities are places and spaces where people should be able to lean into and grow, and not just people that are actually in attendance, people that are affected by a college or a university being in the community. And so we have a responsibility, and it is a privilege to be able to be a part of it.
To come back. All right, I like it. So
Absolutely.
We're headed to Sherry's Market, which is right across the street.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll cross safely. We won't jaywalk. Since we're on film.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about going to Sherry's Market. I think it is a great, if not exemplar, example of generational wealth. It also is a great opportunity to highlight one of the businesses on Virginia Avenue that persisted in some iteration despite urban renewal and the negative effects that urban renewal had on this community. It also is a light in a neighborhood that's ever changing, where older members of the community and residents are passing away, and those particular homes are being either bought by large companies or entities and sort of set on and allowed to become dilapidated, or they're being rented out, but not being kept up such that the renter can feel good about where they live and want to stay for a long time. While all these changes are happening, Sherry's Market provides us an opportunity to hang on to something. It gives us a North Star, so to speak, to really be excited about and to rest in as we build and change and grow.
Wow, I love it. Cool, awesome. So I guess we're going to go inside.
Absolutely. So we're super excited to be here in Sherry's Market. I am proud to be able to honor this store on this corner by way of Black Wealth Week and through the Louisville Change Lab and its support of Sherry's Market. I want to give our owners and our generations represented here, an opportunity to tell us a little bit about Sherry's Market and how it came to be.
First, let me thank you for the opportunity to highlight my store. And it came to be through my generation. My uncle owned the store, Big G's Market. And as a small child, seeing him serve the community, the children enjoying the meet and greet, I figured I wanted to do the same thing. So I invested in my community, and now we have Sherry's Market, which is named after my mother. Yeah, right. The most beautiful lady I know, inside and out. So let's get this straight. And I just wanted to be able to do the same thing, interact with the children, have their day in school, and let them know anything's possible. And show my children that it is possible to own a piece of your community. You know, you can take a little and make a lot, build wealth. And that's what we're trying to show.
Sherry's Market for me is, like you said, just watching it evolve into what it is now. Like, I remember being young, going into Big G's, and it was set up way different from this. And I remember penny candy, and even though we don't have penny candy, we got 5-cent candy. So it's just beautiful to watch. And like he said, it's named after my grandmother, who is just like a heartfelt woman. She's always willing to give. So just being able to give back to the kids and just meeting kids around here and just talking to them and knowing their families and just seeing, like you said, them grow and know that can be something, they can do the same thing.
Absolutely. Louisville Change Lab, as you well know, we've talked about it, seeks to invest its resource and its access by way of the University of Louisville into West Louisville. Tell us a little bit about what you think the Louisville Change Lab can do and should do for West Louisville residents, its entrepreneurs, and its community members.
Well, as far as the Change Lab goes, I believe the resources that y'all can provide is just an outlet for people who don't know, to have somewhere to go to find out the direction they can take to pursue a business, maybe a grant, or like more or less an established business like myself.
Absolutely.
Finding grants, forgiveness loans, things that can help also with us as small as new businesses, you know? Mm-hmm. And just partnering with us, like we had spoke about, I'll let you talk about that, partnering with us to do the pull-ups and the pop-ups, you know, things like that. It's a beautiful idea. We need it.
I definitely think the Change Lab can help. Definitely can, having that information, you know, not as a young entrepreneur coming up, not going to Google, but actually having someone who can give me the knowledge, give me the resources to build my business up, as well as the partnerships with already established wealthy companies and corporations, so that will be just like an advantage, as well as the location and the relatability. So having someone who can relate to you as well as help you elevate is always great.
Well, what excites me so much about the both of you is that we have generational wealth right here in the flesh. So I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about that dynamic. Clearly, you're both working in the store, owning the store, but as I understand it, there's another business in here somewhere, maybe not in this location, but there's another business in this generation. So you want to talk about your business?
Yes, so my business is Essential Beauty, LLC. So what we do is we enhance the beauty of women, specializing in makeup services, as well as products, lip gloss, and makeup brushes. So that will be launching soon. So for it's all things beauty, skincare. That's just kind of what it is right now. So Essential Beats.
So when you were growing up and when you were raising her, was entrepreneurship, was this concept of wealth integral to like this the way you raised her? I'm clear she started a business at a young age, so I have to imagine it was something that you grew up in. Was that always the case, or did that come later in life? Or
Actually, for me, it came later in life.
okay,
On the transition from things that I was doing, things that could sustain me and long last for the kids. So I thought later on about finding a way to build wealth without having to take chances. So, and I wanted them to see my transition because they see me every weekend with all my kids. So they see my evolution. So, her mother owns a business also. So she's seeing this, and I'm proud of her that she's taking flight and trying to go at rapper. Yeah, it was late on in life.
Later on in life. But what, as I always put it, we may have always been entrepreneurial,
Right.
and then we leverage that into a different type of business.
Exactly. Yeah.
We always don't get it.
Right.
So, the other question I have is just around, do you all approach wealth differently and entrepreneurship differently, being two different generations, or are there like stark differences between your approach? Even when you're here in the store, you're like, hey, listen, Dad, we need to have this, that, or the other, or you're like, listen, calm on that, I'm just here for, so is there differences in how you all approach wealth?
I think sometimes we're not in the minimizing kind of view. Like I might think of something we should do, and he has like the whole logic, and I'm like, I guess, okay, you've been here longer than me, so.
Yeah, I'm more or less trying to show them that saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, saving, finances will grow over time.
Yeah.
If you sustain the wealth that you're looking for, you can invest in houses, around our communities, a lot of land down. I'll be just trying to teach them to slow down on spending. You know what I'm saying? But as far as that, they're doing great.
Wow. So speaking of investing in houses and investing in the community, how do you guys feel about the gentrification that's hitting the West End? Some people are also doing the revitalization, that's hitting the West End. What are your thoughts in terms of this contrast, the desire to obviously bring up and build wealth in the community, but also the displacement of those as the wealth is being built? What are your thoughts around that?
Okay. I'll say that it's important with gentrification and what they're trying to do to keep the treasure of Louisville. I feel like the West End is its own and it's always been. So it's important that certain things don't be touched. And I think that if they are, it should be, most importantly, brought to the community. What does the community need? What do we want to see change versus someone who may not never experience living on these streets to come in and change something. So I think that's important, regardless if it's coffee shops or whatever it may be. Is it going to be geared to the Black community? Is it going to be geared to the people here? Is the young kids, can they come in? Is it just going to be for college students? So it's going to be important that it fits who lives in this area.
And it's not so much as the force that they're wanting to justify in certain areas.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, you need to build up the whole community. Like what we're seeing here, the lots I spoke on the trash. And, don't just do certain areas.
Yeah.
So certain people can comfort.
Yeah.
Let's build up all the West, East, and South.
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel about it.
I remember with Muhammad Ali's funeral, how you drove through and everything was just beautiful and picked up and clean. And it's the city's responsibility, so it's possible, right? And so, that like you said, making sure all areas are brought up and not just a focus on one or two areas.
You know where that development, you see it. You see it. But when you come down in the heart, it's the same. Let's get more trash cans on the corner. Just a bit of trash. Let's find community blocks that's willing to organize the kids to pick up the trash for a couple of dollars a week. Summer programs. Like, this is things you can do to beautify the West. The whole, not just certain areas.
And that's wealth, because when you're beautifying, when the real estate properties go up, value go up, and then when also you talked about providing jobs for kids to be a part of that, bringing up the wealth value of the community, and so now they're learning to be entrepreneurs at a young age, and they're learning to build wealth for themselves, for their families. So that's sounds like some researchers right here.
Absolutely. Expert knowledge. You got expert knowledge right here at Sherry's Market. I just want to thank you so much for being willing to be a part of this initiative. This is only the beginning. We are going to pull up at the Louisville Change Lab with Sherry's Market. We're going to partner with you this quarter, meaning in the next 90 days. I am making a commitment on behalf of the Louisville Change Lab that we're going to pull up and we're going to partner and we're going to expect positive change on the Parkland community, okay? Thank you so much for being with us today.
Y'all so much.
Absolutely.
God bless.
Absolutely.
Thank you.